Thank you, Peter. George Zimmerman, the man charged with murdering 17-year-old Trayvon Martin, breaks his silence last night on the Hannity program, giving his side of the story. Joining me now with their reaction, Sabrina Fulton, the mother of Trayvon Martin, Tracy Martin, the father, and Benjamin Crump, the attorney for Trayvon's parents. Good morning to all three of you, and I want to extend my sincere condolences to you. I haven't had a chance to speak with you about the loss of your son.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you.
I'm sure that you watched the interview in its entirety, and so you saw that there was an apology moment from George Zimmerman to you and to others. I want you to have a chance to listen to that and then respond.
I would tell them that, again, I'm sorry. My wife and I don't have any children. I have nephews that I love more than life. I love them more than myself. And I know when they were born, it was a different, unique bond and love that I have with them. And I love my children even though they aren't born yet. And I am sorry that they buried their child. I can't imagine what it must feel like. And I pray for them daily.
Sabrina and Tracy, after hearing that apology directed to you, what is your response back to George Zimmerman?
I personally don't feel like it's sincere. I just feel like he's just saying anything that he wants to, and it's not sincere. It's not coming from his heart.
I think, again, I don't feel that it was sincere either. George Zimmerman had ample enough time to apologize to us for taking the life of our son before the first arrest, and to come and try to publicly apologize now. He's just trying to save face.
I want you to listen to another thing that he said, because he was asked by Sean Hannity whether or not he had any regrets with the way in which the night played out back in February. Here was his response.
Is there anything you regret? Do you regret getting out of the car to follow Trayvon that night?
No, sir.
Do you regret that you had a gun that night?
No, sir.
Do you feel you wouldn't be here for this interview if you didn't have that gun?
No, sir.
You feel you would not be here?
I feel that it was all God's plan, and for me to second guess it or judge it.
Is there anything you might do differently in retrospect now that time has passed a little bit?
No, sir.
So Sabrina and Tracy, when you heard that it was part of God's plan in George Zimmerman's mind, what did you think?
I don't understand what he was thinking by saying that it was God's plan that he murdered our child. And I really don't understand what God he worships, because it's not the same God that I worship.
Sabrina?
And why would God have him to kill an unarmed teenager? I mean, it just makes no sense. So,
what plan is it by, I mean, that's heartless to say that that was God's plan that he took our child's life.
Of course, George Zimmerman's claim is that he acted in self-defense. I want to take you to the moment of the interview where he describes what he says happened that night.
He started bashing my head into the concrete sidewalk. As soon as he broke my nose, I started yelling for help.
How many times would you estimate that he punched you?
Several, more than a dozen.
Mr. Crump, you are the attorney for Trayvon Martin's parents. As a lawyer, does that sound like self-defense?
Gretchen, we have all this evidence. The state attorney is going to see this interview as a gift when they go to cross-examine George Zimmerman, and that is his version. Trayvon isn't here to tell his version what happened, and certainly everybody in America will concede that George Zimmerman's credibility is at issue.
In what way?
Well, you have all the things that he said to the court, and he has so many inconsistencies that he's told, Gretchen. We don't have enough time in your show to go through all the inconsistencies, but we need only look at the court's order to talk about George Zimmerman's credibility and the things he said in court during the bond hearing. His credibility because it's his version, the only person that's saying Trayvon attacked him. There's no other objective evidence saying that. And you look at objective evidence versus subjective evidence, and when you add them up, the subjective George Zimmerman versions are not consistent with the objective evidence.
One of the things you may be pointing to was whether or not Trayvon Martin was running, walking, skipping. I want you to hear another part of the interview where George Zimmerman explains what he saw.
You said on the 911 call that he's running. You said that to the dispatch.
Maybe I said running, but he was more...
You said he's running.
Yes. It was like skipping and going away quickly, but he wasn't running out of fear.
You could tell the difference?
He wasn't running.
So he wasn't actually running?
No, sir.
Okay, because that's what you said to the dispatchers. You thought he was running.
Is that what you're talking about, Mr. Crum?
Yes, ma'am, and that is so crucial because we hear the 911 conversation he has with the operator. And you remember, Gretchen, an hour after he shot Trayvon Martin in the heart, he gave a written statement. And he said in that written statement, he got out the car to check street signs. Well, we know from listening to that 911 tape that he said, oh, and he said an explicit word and said he's getting away. And that's when we hear the wind whistling and we hear the pursuit. And so just listen with your own ears. We have a thing called re ipsa loquitur in the law, which is Latin for the thing speaks for itself. Just listen with your own ears.
Okay. George Zimmerman also in that interview said that he said the word punk. He had been accused of saying something else that may have been thought of as racial. Before I go, though, I want to get Sabrina and Tracy's thoughts on this. Because he extended the apology to you, and we got your comments on that earlier, would you ever find it in your heart to forgive this man?
My son just was murdered a couple of months ago, so it's not something that I can really stomach right now. I mean, maybe in a few years, I don't know, but it's just really difficult right now to actually face and sit in the same room as somebody that murdered my son.
Yeah, I think it's just, I think it's too much to ask of us to forgive the guy that don't even regret taking our son's life. So just to ask us to forgive George Zimmerman is just too much.
Sabrina Fulton, Tracy Martin, Benjamin Crump, thanks so much for your time today and the response to the George Zimmerman interview.
Thank you.